Thank you for joining us on Africa 24. Today we have with us in studio Professor Benedict Oramah, President of Afreximbank. With him, we shall be discussing Afreximbank's initiative to invest in Africa. Thank you for joining us on Africa 24, Mr. Benedict.
Thank you for having me.
You are taking part in the 2023 edition of the Africa Investment Forum, an event dedicated to unlocking Africa's value and accelerating transactions to close the continent's investment gaps. From your perspective, what are the global challenges currently facing the continent in terms of investments?
Today, the investment climate on the continent is impacted largely by global uncertainties. We know that since 2020, when the COVID-19 hit, the world had been facing major challenges. The COVID-19 did not quite end when the Ukraine crisis set in. All these also combined to lead to other problems. The problem of debt overhang, because some countries who were already becoming heavily indebted got even deeper in debt because of the COVID-19 crisis. And of course, the crisis in Russia and Ukraine and other factors also began to cause rising inflation around the world, leading to higher interest rates. So when you have a combination of rising debt levels and rising interest rates, you see that the global economy, especially as it concerns Africa, will be in difficulty. So many countries in Africa are going through challenges of trying to recover fully from all these crises, and also challenges of having to deal with high interest rates that is making it difficult to borrow money to be able to finance things. But within Africa, the opportunities remain. Within Africa, it is possible to do investments using local currencies. It is possible for investment to happen within Africa in the intra-regional direction, where people in one country in Africa can invest in other countries, because the perception of risk in that context is not the same as with those who are looking into Africa from outside. That is why, despite all of this, we still have some foreign direct investments coming into African countries, not as high as it had been in the past, but still some.
So what is Afreximbank's effort in solving this investment problem in Africa?
What we are doing is, first of all, pushing the Africa direct investment narrative, that is intra-African investment. Because, as I said, it's all about risk, and risk is about perception. Africans understand African risk better. And within the African continent, we have quite a large pool of investable funds. Asset managers have about 1.8 trillion under management. You have reserves, foreign exchange reserves of about $400 billion. You have migrant remittances of about $100 billion. So there are sources of investments that we can tap. And within Africa, countries spend about $60 billion annually on infrastructure. So what we have done ourselves is to say, how do we mobilize the potential investors in Africa and show them opportunities in other African countries so that they can invest in those opportunities and invest profitably. So we started a program called the Inter-African Engineer Procure and Construct Contract Initiative, whereby we mobilized credible and capable contractors and developers, and then also then worked with them to create a platform where countries will put out tenders for opportunities that they have, either for for construction or for public-private partnership engagements. So then we back all of this up with our financing. So what happens is that these investors, these contractors see these opportunities on the platform, and then they go for them. And in the past 6-7 years, we've been able to mobilize or generate investments of about $13 billion. And that's why we decided to formalize it. And we will be launching it in a formal way, launching this initiative in a formal way at the Inter-African Trade Fair, precisely on the 13th of November this year in Cairo. Another thing we are doing, which is very important, is the use of an African payment and settlement system to begin to solve the problem. Today, when African countries want to invest in infrastructure, they borrow, and then they borrow in foreign currency. In fact, it's those investments in infrastructure that are the main cause of the sovereign debt problem Africa has. So, if they don't do those projects under a public-private partnership or other arrangements, they borrow money to finance those projects. So, with the Pan-African payment and settlement system, we're creating an opportunity for African contractors to come into other African countries, execute those contracts when they win them, and get paid in their national currencies. It means then that the countries that are doing those projects will not have to borrow internationally. They will just borrow, use their national currencies to pay the contract and get their national currencies. So this way, we will promote more and more intra-African engagements in engineering services. We also create opportunities for African developers and African investors to go to Africa, other African countries, to participate in public-private partnership projects and investments.
Professor Benedict Oramah, you earlier mentioned about the third intra-African trade fair, which is to take in Cairo, Egypt. And this trade fair, organized by the Afreximbank, will provide a unique and valuable platform for businesses to access an integrated African market of over 1.3 billion people with a GDP of over $3.5 trillion created under the African Continental Free Trade Area. Can you tell us the importance of this trade fair in promoting intra-African trade and investments?
Thank you very much. Today, Africans trade more with others than they trade among themselves. The reason for this can be found in history. It's a history of colonialism. It's colonialism that fragmented the continent into many countries. We have 110 borders that divide us as a people in Africa. Because of that fragmentation, because of that colonial history, the economic relations we have, each country has relations with its metropolitan power, that's the colonial masters. Countries hardly had relations with other African countries. The result is business people in Africa know more about Europe, America, China, India than they know about what is happening across their border. So trade information is lacking. And because trade information is lacking, trade is not occurring. The purpose of this trade fair is to create a platform that will begin to correct this anomaly, to make it easy for people from all over the continent of Africa to come together, businesses, investors, governments, to come together to know what is available just around them. and then begin to engage them and perhaps begin to forge business partnerships. We've done 2 trade fairs. Those 2 trade fairs generated about almost $80-something billion in deals. We expect that this one will generate about $40-something billion in deals. But beyond what the transaction that will be done there is the seed that we are planting that matters. The seed of beginning to gradually bring down the borders that divide us, that make it possible for a business person in one country to see the other country as an opportunity. Today, it's beginning to happen, but not at the pace we want it to. It's a trade fair that will begin to create that opportunity.
Professor Benedict Oramah, thank you for answering Africa 24's questions.
Thank you very much.
Dear viewers, this is the end of this interview. Stay tuned to Africa 24 for more programs.